What up and welcome. It is the Golden Era podcast. We are just about a week away from the official start of the NBA offseason. The Golden State Warriors have just won their third straight NBA crown, so what better time to take a look ahead. Here's four things that I'm looking forward to, or at least I'd be watching for in the upcoming offseason, okay? This figures to be a big one. Number of stars could be potentially available on the market, most notably in free agency. But this has very similar feel to the Golden State end of their four-peat back in 2024. So I don't think it's an exaggeration to say this could be a really impactful summer. So first thing, Miami's cap space. Miami has hoarded almost $100 million in cap space. That's enough to get them 2 stars. So who wants to go to South Beach? The big name that seems almost like a foregone conclusion is Cameron Sullivan. He's been very, very commonly linked to Miami. Now, look, Sullivan's good. Sullivan is a Defensive Player of the Year center when he's at his best, but he's not the type of guy that I would say I put him into a situation and I'm suddenly a contender. He's a 12-point, 14 rebound, 3 block per game guy. That's really good. He was a huge part of why the Cavaliers won an NBA championship. It's why they upset the Toronto Raptors in 2028. He's a huge part of that puzzle. But he's not a guy that I look at and say, this is a superstar, and now we're good. But if he's going there, who else goes with him? There's been reporting that Ja Morant wants to potentially leave Memphis. He's been in Memphis. He has done everything that he possibly can. And the Grizzlies haven't really been that great since they moved to the Eastern Conference post their NBA championship. They won that first title, their first year in the Eastern Conference. Since then, they've really struggled. They tried adding Luka Doncic. That didn't work out last season. They missed the play-in. They had a lot of injuries, but they couldn't play defense. I don't know that Morant has anything left to prove to Memphis. I think he's going to be a person that will always be referred to in Memphis glowingly, regardless of how this part of his career ends there. But only one championship, so is he prepared to move on? During the playoffs, the name that we heard a lot the last couple weeks has been Desmond Cooper. He's coming off a second back injury in Dallas. Is he a type of piece that you could pair with Cameron Sullivan that feels like it would be a competitive team in the Eastern Conference? I don't know that Cooper is. I think you can make the case for Ja Morant, but Morant's in his early 30s. He's probably got maybe 2 seasons left. Are you willing to commit $100 million to him? That could be a problem. If you look at the later part of that contract, what is he going to look like? They're going all in. It seems pretty obvious in that. They've really struggled to hit on their draft picks, so it seems all likely they're going all in with something around Cameron Sullivan, it appears. At what cost does that come with? Second, if Cameron Sullivan does leave, what does that mean in Cleveland? What does that mean for Jason Sanders? Sanders has a LeBron treatment right now in Cleveland. He wins an NBA championship for the Cavs, their first non-LeBron title in franchise history. But they have little else around there. Sullivan is probably their second best player. You can make the case for LaMelo Ball, but LaMelo Ball's 32 years old right now. He comes off a torn ACL a year and a half ago. His lack of a defense is a tough sell to say, look, we can retool. The Cavs don't have a lot of options. Tyrese Halliburton, he's a free agent. Onyeka Okongwu, he's a free agent. Cameron Sullivan, obviously a free agent. That's 3 of their 5 starters are going to be free agents. They don't really have a lot of assets, especially if Sullivan walks for nothing, right? This isn't a sign and trade to get him to, let's say, Phoenix, for example, where you might be getting back something in return. This is a pure walk, and we saw how detrimental that was a year ago when the Celtics lost Kareem Robinson to the Los Angeles Lakers. It's not easy to refill a roster spot, and especially an all-star caliber roster spot, when it's literally nothing coming back in return, when you're not really freeing up cap space all of a sudden because the Cavs have been so deep in the luxury tax. So the ramifications of this, I think, are pretty big. Sanders, if Sullivan leaves, it's going to be almost immediate that we see reporting that the future is maybe questioned. That's basically it. There's going to be no short list of teams. There's going to be a long list of teams that are interested in Jason Sanders if he becomes available. I don't think that the Cavaliers should so quickly dismiss, well, we're keeping him and we're going to try to return. I think there's a huge opportunity for them to make a splash with Cameron, with the departure of Jason Sanders and start retooling for the future. Speaking of the future of the Suns, Phoenix got absolutely embarrassed. A sweep of the Warriors. This was supposed to be the year, right? This was the Suns have this incredible regular season. They dominate through the first two rounds. They have a tough series against Mateo Delgado and the Spurs in the opening round, but then they just obliterated the Blazers. So they walk into the Western Conference Finals with like a week and a half of rest, while the Warriors nearly blow this 3-1 lead to the Jazz. And we're getting there and we're saying, this is it. This is the time for Jacoby Cleaves. He's the NBA MVP. Cade Cunningham, he's made 2 trips to the NBA Finals. This is time for his third trip. They're going to get back. This team is loaded with talent. It's an incredibly diverse defensive group. This is it. They take a huge lead in Game 1. I think they're up 13 points in the first quarter. They blow it in the second half. They take a big lead in Game 2, again, on the road, and they blow it in the second half. And the Warriors just walk all over them in Game 3 and 4 and sweep them. At the end of that series, I don't know that the Suns can bring back this roster as it currently exists. Marcus Young Jr. is a restricted free agent. Nathan Servin was getting, absolutely, it appeared to be every single side eye, angry eye, fireball eye you could possibly throw at him by the end of that series. He didn't rebound at all. And this is the former number 1 overall pick, rookie of the year. He just didn't look anything like what they wanted to have out of their future. Marcus Young Jr. is a great defender, but the Warriors just backed off of him in that series and said, you're going to have to beat us with 3-pointers. And when the Suns got rolling, he hit threes, but he's a 33% 3-point shooter. So they were sticking, Deontay Dixon on him and just letting Dixon play safety and just disrupting everything that Cade Cunningham, that Anthony Edwards tried to do. This just wasn't the Suns team that we had seen during the regular season. So I can't believe that they bring this team back as it is. They need a shakeup. So what does that shakeup look like? I think there's still a market for Marcus Young Jr. as a restricted free agent. The great part about that, if you talk about Cleveland having to give up Jason Sanders for nothing, Young Jr. is a restricted free agent. You should be able to get plenty of teams that are interested in a signing trade. The only part of that is if Marcus Young Jr. decides to sign a qualifying offer. I have to imagine the Suns have a meeting ahead of time with his team, with his representatives, and say, be patient. Where do you want to go? And let's try to find something that can work for us. Because if he signs a qualifying offer, they're stuck with him. I mean, they're not going to let him walk for nothing. Former lottery pick. Still has a lot of value in the league. But that really starts playing their hand. So I think this is a huge summer for the Phoenix Suns. And then the last one. What's next for Golden State? They've won 3 straight titles. But this summer feels odd. I said this feels like the summer of 24. They just won 4 straight championships. But it wasn't really they didn't have this glowing feel for the future. There's reports already in The Athletic that Joe Lacob is turning off the funnel, right? He doesn't want to go into the luxury tax anymore. That seems odd to me. This is a team that's looked at the luxury tax as like a maybe you shouldn't go past this danger zone. They're now looking at it as we're not moving into this zone. That means a lot. Deontay Dixon is up he's a free agent this summer. He's going to get a max rookie extension. Javon Roll is on a very team-friendly deal, still getting paid around $30 million. He's going to get paid next season. That's going to be a huge deal. They can't keep all 4 of their All-Stars. They can't keep Roll, Kuminga, and Deontay Dixon. Kuminga's got 1 more year left. He's got 46, and Shane Ruffin. So it seems to me that one of those 4 is out the door. Who is it going to be? It's not going to be Javon Roll, and it's not going to be Deontay Dixon. Jonathan Kuminga's over 30. Okay? Yes, he's been to 7 All-NBA first teams, or All-NBA 17, He's been an All-NBA player 7 times. 6 in a row was first team. Last year was the first time since 2026 that he wasn't first team. I can't imagine that he suddenly becomes an All-NBA first team forward again. You have the next forward already on this roster in Deontay Dixon. You could get a haul if you decided to move on from Kuminga. Kuminga's won, I think, 7. He was a part of the 3 of the 4 championships. So he's got 7 championships, I think. If my math serves me correctly, we can get on that. But I can't imagine that you're not getting a good haul for Jonathan Kuminga. If you look around the league at the number of teams that want a veteran All-NBA caliber forward, you could restock the cupboard, you can clear the cap space, you can get young. This team does not have a lot of young stars outside of Deontay Dixon. They haven't really nailed a lot of their draft picks. You could make a serious case that Kuminga gets you maybe 3 first-round picks and a nice young piece around it, and suddenly you start looking towards the future around Deontay Dixon and Javon Rule, who's going to be 29 this summer. Meanwhile, Kuminga's 31. It's not, I think, inconceivable, and I think the writing is a little on the wall if the Warriors are coming out and saying, we're not going to go into the luxury tax anymore, where you can build a deep, talented roster around Deontay Dixon and Javon Rule if you move on from the $46 million that's owed Kuminga this season and next. It's going to be exciting. We got the NBA draft in a couple weeks. Thank you to our producers. We'll be back then with a little deep dive into, I think we'll probably be next talking to you after the NBA draft and all the chaos that's been leading up to that. And obviously, the draft might be my favorite 3 hours in the NBA. That's not the clinching game of the NBA Finals, just because of all the movement, the new pieces, and you started to see the handbook of how teams are going to treat their offseason. So, yeah, we can't wait.